They messed with my money. I messed with their business. The fluorescent lights of Harrison Associates hummed, a constant, irritating drone that mirrored the monotony of my days. As a mid-level accountant, my life was a spreadsheet, a carefully balanced ledger of debits and credits. I wasn't saving the world, but I took pride in my work, in the clean, logical precision of it all. I was Liam, and I liked things to add up. Mr. Harrison, on the other hand, seemed to thrive on chaos. He was all bluster and backslaps, a caricature of a successful businessman. He'd started the firm years ago, and for a while, things seemed good. But lately, there was a frantic edge to him, a desperation that manifested in increasingly bizarre requests and cost-cutting measures. He talked big about expansion and new investments, but the rumors whispered through the office were of mounting debt and questionable deals. Brenda, the office manager, was his enforcer, a woman hardened by years of service and unwavering loyalty or perhaps fear. She was the gatekeeper, the shield protecting Mr. Harrison from the inconvenient realities of paperwork and personnel issues. She treated everyone except Mr. Harrison like a mildly annoying child, her tone perpetually condescending. Then there was Sarah, a few years older than me, equally competent and infinitely more cynical. We were the only two accountants at Harrison Associates who seemed to genuinely care about doing things the right way. We'd bonded over shared frustrations and a mutual distrust of Mr. Harrison's vision. She was my lifeline in that place, a sounding board, a voice of reason when I felt like I was losing my grip. David, who owned a successful bakery cafe downtown, was one of my clients. I managed his books, and we developed a good working relationship. He was a straight shooter, and I appreciated his honesty and integrity. I always made sure he got the best possible service because he deserved it. His place was booming, and I loved the smell of croissants when I went there. It started small, almost imperceptible. A deduction of $17, $42 on my paycheck, listed as miscellaneous expenses. I couldn't recall authorizing any such expense. I chalked it up to a clerical error, a simple mistake. I'd been there for 5 years, mistakes happened, and I walked over to Brenda's desk, confident it'd be sorted out immediately. "Brenda, I think there's a slight error on my latest paycheck," I said, holding up the stub. She barely glanced at it. "What is it, Liam? I'm swamped. There's a deduction I don't recognize. Miscellaneous expenses for $17.42. She sighed dramatically. "Probably your contribution to the office birthday cake fund. Did you forget? I didn't think we had a birthday cake fund." "Well, now we do. Mr. Harrison thought it would be a nice morale booster. Consider it a team-building exercise." She waved her hand dismissively. "It's just $17, Liam. Don't be so petty." I frowned. It wasn't about the money exactly. It was the principle. No one had mentioned this birthday cake fund, and I certainly hadn't authorized any deduction. "Okay, but shouldn't we have been informed about this beforehand?" I asked. Brenda just rolled her eyes. "Look, I don't have time to explain every little thing. Mr. Harrison approved it. End of story. The money wasn't credited back to my next check. I let it go, telling myself it was just $17, not worth the hassle. But then the next paycheck came and there was another deduction. This time it was $23, $15 labeled office supplies. I started meticulously tracking my hours, comparing them to the official records. I printed out my bank statements, cross-referencing every transaction. The discrepancies were small, but they were consistent. A few dollars here, a few dollars there. It added up. I showed Sarah my findings during our lunch break. We usually ate at our desks, but that day I convinced her to walk to the park a few blocks away. I couldn't risk being overheard. "I knew something was up," she said, examining my spreadsheet. "I've noticed some weird stuff on my checks too, and the way Harrison's been acting lately. It's like he's hiding something." "What do you think it is?" I asked. Sarah shrugged. "I don't know, but I wouldn't put anything past him. He's been making some really odd requests lately, asking me to recategorize certain expenses, you know. Shifting money around to make things look better on paper. It's giving me a really bad feeling." I decided to confront Mr. Harrison directly. I scheduled a meeting with him, carefully wording my request to avoid raising any alarms. His office was as ostentatious as he was. A massive mahogany desk, a leather armchair, and a panoramic view of the city that seemed designed to intimidate anyone who dared to question his authority. "Liam, my boy, what can I do for you?" he boomed, his smile a little too wide, a little too forced. "I just wanted to clarify a few things about my paycheck," I said, trying to keep my voice neutral. "Paycheck? Is there a problem?" He leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. "Yes, sir. I've noticed some deductions that I can't account for. Miscellaneous expenses, office supplies, I just wanted to understand what they were for. Mr. Harrison chuckled. Oh, those, don't worry about those, Liam. They're just adjustments, necessary for the smooth running of the firm. Adjustments? But shouldn't I be informed about them beforehand? He waved his hand dismissively. Look, Liam, I appreciate your attention to detail, but you're getting bogged down in the minutiae. Trust me, everything is above board. We're a family here at Harrison Associates, and we take care of our own. But these deductions are affecting my finances, I stammered, feeling my frustration rise. Mr. Harrison's smile faded. Now listen, Liam. I understand that money can be tight, but I assure you, these adjustments are in everyone's best interest. We're all making sacrifices to ensure the long-term success of the firm. And frankly, I expect a little loyalty and discretion from my employees. He gave me a pointed look. Understand. The implication was clear. Shut up and be grateful you have a job. The deductions continued, increasing in frequency and amount. My bank account was dwindling. I was starting to fall behind on my bills. The stress was consuming me. I started digging deeper. I examined client invoices, expense reports, and bank statements. I discovered a pattern of irregularities, of discrepancies that couldn't be explained away as simple accounting errors. Mr. Harrison was manipulating client accounts, inflating profits, and siphoning off funds. He was cooking the books, plain and simple. And then I saw David's account. There it was, hidden within a maze of transactions, a series of suspicious charges, disguised as consulting fees and marketing expenses. Mr. Harrison was skimming money from David's business, padding his own pockets at David's expense. I knew I couldn't stand by and watch. David was a good man, an honest businessman. He didn't deserve this. Brenda started watching me like a hawk. She scrutinized my every move, questioned my every action. She was trying to intimidate me, to make me quit. She'd find minor errors in my work and make a huge deal out of them. The atmosphere was poisonous. I reached out to Marcus, the IT guy. He was a contractor in and out of the office. He kept to himself, but he was observant. I knew he'd seen things. Marcus, I said one day, catching him by the coffee machine. Can I ask you something off the record? He looked at me, his expression unreadable. Depends on what it is. I lowered my voice. Have you noticed anything unusual with the company's IT security lately? Access logs, data backups, anything out of the ordinary? He hesitated for a moment, then nodded slowly. Let's just say I've seen some unauthorized access attempts. Files being copied to external drives, that kind of thing. Could you help me get some information? I asked. He looked around nervously. That's risky, Liam. If I get caught, I understand, I said. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important. People are getting hurt. Marcus sighed. All right, I'll see what I can do. But you didn't hear it from me. He became my silent ally, providing me with crucial information that helped me build my case against Mr. Harrison. He told me how to access certain files and where to find the evidence I needed. I discreetly informed David I was concerned about the business practices and accounts at Harrison Associates, and that I would like to sit down with him to discuss my concerns. He agreed immediately. Then, Mr. Harrison dropped the bomb. He called a staff meeting and announced that, due to unforeseen economic challenges, he was implementing a mandatory across-the-board pay cut. Everyone would be taking a 10% reduction in salary. That was it, the final straw. I stood up. Mr. Harrison, with all due respect, I can't accept this. He frowned. What do you mean, Liam? I mean that I'm already being shorted on my paycheck. I've documented the discrepancies, and I have evidence that you're manipulating client accounts. A hush fell over the room. Everyone stared at me, their faces a mixture of shock and disbelief. Mr. Harrison's face turned red. What are you talking about? This is outrageous. You're making false accusations. I have proof. I said, my voice trembling but firm. I have copies of the altered invoices, the unauthorized transactions, the bank statements, and I have witnesses. I looked at Sarah, who nodded subtly in support. Brenda jumped to her feet. This is insubordination. You're fired. Liam, get out of my office. I'm afraid that's not going to happen, Brenda, I said. Because I've already contacted a lawyer, and I filed a formal complaint with the state accounting board. The room erupted in chaos. People were shouting, arguing, whispering. Mr. Harrison was pacing back and forth, sputtering with rage. Then David spoke up, his voice cutting through the noise. I'm moving my account, he said, looking directly at Mr. Harrison. I've always trusted Liam, and if he says something's wrong, I believe him. I want my books audited immediately. Mr. Harrison's face crumbled. He looked defeated, desperate. I was suspended, pending an investigation. I spent the next few weeks working with my lawyer, providing him with all the evidence I had gathered. Sarah continued to feed me information from inside the firm, carefully undermining Brenda and Mr. Harrison. Word of the allegations spread like wildfire. Clients started pulling their accounts. Mr. Harrison's reputation was in tatters. He tried to bribe me, to intimidate me, to get me to drop the charges. But I refused. I wasn't going to back down. The investigation revealed widespread financial irregularities at Harrison Associates. Mr. Harrison was facing serious penalties, including fines, potential loss of his license, and even criminal charges. Brenda was implicated in the scheme as well. I received a settlement that included back pay and compensation for damages. It wasn't a fortune, but it was enough to get me back on my feet. I left Harrison Associates and started looking for a new job. It wasn't long before I got an offer from a reputable firm downtown. They valued integrity and ethical practices, and David became one of my first clients. He trusted me, and I wouldn't let him down. The last time I saw Mr. Harrison was at a local coffee shop. He looked haggard and defeated, a shadow of his former self. He tried to say something, but I just walked away. I never got any satisfaction from his downfall. I wasn't looking for revenge, just justice. I learned a valuable lesson from that experience, that integrity matters, that standing up for what's right is always worth it, even when it's difficult. And that sometimes the smallest acts of defiance can have the biggest impact.